right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's another Sunday, and we are with you live tonight from 6:30 to 7:30 every week, every Sunday on Comcast Channel 23. I'm your host, Alex Ansary.
And I'm Alex Wyatt.
And we're going to be covering some of the latest news involving Japan, also Libya, and many other developments tonight. We also got a number of videos we're going to be sharing with you. Last week we talked about the protest that took place in downtown Portland, Oregon, outside City Hall. Randy Leonard came out attempting to pacify the crowds. We'll talk about that later on, and many other things as well. But we need to move quickly in this 1 hour live show. So if you want to join the conversation, pick up the phone and dial 503-288-4442. But again, we have a number of videos we're going to be playing tonight, so make that call quickly. And of course, turn down your TV before you dial that number. First headline of the evening tonight, our update from our regular coverage on lots of major news hitting the planet involving Japan, though. Japanese government official reveals the awful truth. It could actually take months to stop the radioactive leak. A Japanese government official has admitted it may take multiple months to stop radiation from leaking into the Pacific Ocean. Workers are currently trying to seal the leak by using some sort of absorbent, a similar material that's found in diapers. Oh, diapers of all things.
Yeah.
Okay, this news comes just hours after the grisly discovery of 2 workers that have been found dead at the power plant. Some other news that you found that you want to share?
Yeah, the UN-backed Ivory Coast leader accused in massacres. The UN Secretary General has urged Ivory Coast's internationally backed president to investigate hundreds of deaths blamed partly on his supporters.
There's certainly a lot going on.
Yeah,
We've got the situation in Libya. We're seeing a lot of deaths in the Ivory Coast. And of course, we got the situation in Japan, which took place, of course, on 3/11. A lot of us woke up to the news about the potential radiation fallout. But we also see some other fallout here in Africa.
Yeah, and then, for Japan-wise, California, I got a thing here that says California's rainwater is 181 times above the drinking water standards for radioactive iodine-131.
And that's a very important revelation. So let's continue on with that report. Government under fire as radiation has now been found in U.S. milk and rain. Federal officials have still not published any official data on nuclear fallout from the Japanese disaster. A rooftop water monitoring program managed by UC Berkeley's Department of Nuclear Engineering detected substantial spikes in rain-borne iodine-131 during major downpours of rain about a week ago. You can see in this graph right here, published by UC Berkeley, iodine-131 peaked at 20.1. I don't know, how do you pronounce that? There's so many different
becquerels
per liter, a measure of radioactivity on the roof of one particular facility during heavy rains about a week ago. The federal maximum level of iodine-131 allowed in drinking water is 0.111 per liter. These are levels that exceed drinking water standards by 181 times and has been detected in multiple milk samples. So in the last week, in fact 2 weeks, we've seen admissions that radiation has found its way to Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, Massachusetts, Illinois, and perhaps well over a dozen other states that are currently being reported. Of course, if it made its way to Illinois, we know that it's likely it made its way to other states as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just to brief you on the symptoms of acute radiation sickness: vomiting, bloody diarrhea, fatigue and weakness, rash, poor wound healing, and crippling of the immune system.
Since this situation, since this earthquake, the beginning of the meltdowns of the nuclear reactors in Japan, there's been basically a run on iodine tablets. And the truth is, this can actually damage your thyroid gland. Now, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know the very basics of preparedness. But if you're not completely knowledgeable or aware of how a substance or a herb or some form of medicine is actually going to impact your body, it's best you not take it till you realize what you're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. It's know what you put in your body.
We have some herbs we can recommend in just a little bit. We'll get to that. Natural remedies. These are also things you can use if there's a major flu or some other virus virus that is rampant in the population. Continuing on, fears continue to mount as radiation drifts over from Japan. Trace quantities of radioactive fallout drift over the West Coast. Fears are rising about environmental contamination and possible health risks, but experts continue to say that the risk is minimal. And according to Barack Obama, there is no threat of radiation coming into the United States. And we said this weeks ago, while he's busy with his NCAA double picks, basketball picks, we see these detections of radiation increasing all over the planet. Now, we also see a very troubling situation in the nation of Canada, just north of us. Canadian Inspection Agency refuses to test milk for radiation. Canadian health agencies have no immediate plans to measure the amount of radiation in milk following Japan's nuclear crisis, despite the demands of BC dairy farmers who want officials to follow the U.S. and test dairy products. And according to their spokeswoman for the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, quote, there will be no testing of milk, end quote. Now, Japan again says it will take months to end radiation leaks. More bodies have been recovered from the tsunami-hit coast. Damages, the bill could top $300 billion. And of course, we have evacuations going on in Tokyo and a shortage of water.
Yeah, and I got a thing here of the jet stream that looks like it's going right for us, and mainly California and southern Oregon. So it's not good for the West Coast.
Camera number one, Bill. All right, let's see if any of this will appear on the actual screen itself. But there's a number of maps that have been released documenting the radiation
and that's
traveling.
the forecast for the next 30 hours, I believe, for the jet stream. So it's yeah, it's headed right for us.
Now, here are some herbs that you may want to stock up on to take care of your body. Of course, whether it's a crisis or not, whether it's a flu or not, whether there's radiation exposure or not, you live in the New World Order. And there are many poisons in the air, water, and food. And so your body is a temple. Whether it's a crisis or not, you need to think about your health and your physical body. Mind, body, and spirit. So let's look over some of these herbs for radiation exposure. Some of these I can pronounce, some of these I can't, but right from the get-go, milk thistle extract, we have ginkgo biloba, we have Panax ginseng, vitamin E, vitamin C, vitamin F, magnesium, calcium, folic acid, vitamin B12, green tea extract. Kelp is very powerful, also seaweed. Cilantro, for that matter, is good for sucking the heavy metals out of the body. Lemon, a multivitamin and mineral capsule or powder without iron or copper. Aged garlic extract. Zinc, and a number of other things as well. So if you get on the internet and you dial herbs for radiation exposure, you're going to come up with a number of things. I recommend highly olive leaf extract and also something called Oregon grape root, which you can find right here in abundance in the Pacific Northwest. Now, Bill, get track one ready. This is a friend of mine, Dee Dee. She was on the show about 6 months to a year ago, actually I think about a year ago, and she is sharing her thoughts on the situation in Japan. When we come back, of course, we'll take your phone calls at 503-288-4442. We're looking forward to hearing from you. See you in a few.
Hello, Outside the Box viewers. This is Dee Dee Farrell with a 5-minute update about my opinions on the Japanese earthquake. I've spent this last week looking at, I would say, dozens and dozens of documents on the subject of the nuclear fallout, the causes of the earthquake, the plight of the Japanese people, which you can't help but feel great compassion for. That's one of the upsides of this, is that people do develop more of a sense of compassion and unity with their fellow man when they see them suffering, because that is basically the only thing we have in common, is none of us want to suffer and none of us want to be unhappy. As far as the causes of the earthquake, that's on so many levels it's almost impossible to address. There's, of course, many people that believe that HAARP has something to do with it when they understand the way the technology works and how we've had verifiable evidence that other quakes and cyclones and various activities have been assisted, if not completely caused, by the HAARP technology. The one thing I do see that's happened here in America is a lot of people which is another upside of this thing, I've become a lot more acutely aware of their own inability, were it to happen here in Portland, to be prepared for it. And people say to me, well, if you don't think everything's going to get really bad, or you think it's all going to be okay, why are you preparing? Well, it's only prudent to prepare for something that could occur in anybody's life. I believe nature probably has a tremendous amount, not probably, but does have a tremendous amount to do with the earth shifting and the poles shifting. I'm not so convinced that that's the only thing happening, because I know too much about the other things that are at play here in the world in order to manipulate and coerce the population into being just a little more of a sheeple than they might already be. I think the upside also is that people are banding together. I was with a group yesterday, and all they wanted to talk about is, well, let's make a plan, and what will we do, and where will you be if something happens? They decided to put together emergency equipment for their car now, which a lot of people don't have, even if they have things at home. So I think this is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg of what we're actually going to see here as consciousness continues to slip away into either circling the drain or what they call ascension, moving up, growing up into a higher level of consciousness that allows you to actually see what's going on and be effective in doing something about it. I realize that not everyone is here to learn these valuable lessons of waking up to your own sovereign person. However, we still have to live here together and take care of each other despite all of these differences and all of these earth changes. That's the bottom line, is that we're all in here in a humanity situation like a big soup. And I think the best thing we can do is to help those that are willing to be helped, let others assist us, and try to educate people where you can on these various issues. I sat down with someone last night and they said, well, things aren't really all that bad. And I said, well, yeah, they don't look that bad unless you look at the whole circle. You look at genetically modified food, mandatory vaccinations, chemtrails, fluoride in the water, the closing of schools, the ripping off of the public's money for the so-called IRS, which doesn't even have a district office in any state anymore. And people will just voluntarily give up their right to have a better life in order to support these myths. And there's a new book out called The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose, and I would recommend that everyone read it, because it actually is very clear on what the most dangerous superstition is not that the global elite bankers have really blown it and taken down our economy and the economy of the world with their greed and their misshapen ideas of what's right. But the most dangerous superstition is for any individual that thinks that any association, corporation, government has any authority over them whatsoever. I'm not talking about anarchy. I'm just talking about people giving their power away because it's the myth or the superstition they grew up with that if they don't do it, there's going to be some kind of hell and damnation come down on them. So the Japanese people are no different. You know, they've been lied to by their government. We're being lied to about the amount of radiation coming out there. So all I can do is use this and other things that happen as a wake-up call. Do your own homework, educate yourself, make your own decisions about when it's time to dose yourself against radiations. Make your own decisions when it's time to explore what it really means to be a citizen of a community or a citizen of a country. And don't just acquiesce every single part of your personal power so someone else can have claim and control over it, because that's what really causes the disasters. So take care, and God willing, we'll all be here another day to share and celebrate together.
All right, and we're back. 503-288-4442. How concerned do you think the average Portlander is about this particular event?
I don't know. It's kind of a mixed.
It's hard to gauge this time.
Yeah, definitely. It's people seem to just when they hear so much from the mass media, they were
tune out.
They were talking about nothing. Yeah, they just tune out. And
well, you know, in the last week we've heard very little. When you look at mainstream radio, mainstream TV, we had the situation in Japan, then we had Libya. You look at the strange timing of this. And I want to hear more about the survivors. Yeah. I want to hear more about the orphans. I want to hear about how people are surviving what's taking place. And we live in a world of billions of people. We have probably, certainly have millions of websites out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of information on the web. But when you look at the limited realm of the box, TV and radio, mainstream that is, very little coverage. Even on KBOO radio, you're hearing a lot of coverage about Libya and Libya and Libya. We're actually starting to see, especially if you listen to NPR, also known as National Petroleum Radio, a lot of people living, this segues to our next topic, living vicariously through others, thinking that the revolution's actually underway globally because of what's taking place in Egypt, Libya, and elsewhere.